Welcome back to Couple Talk, cracking the code to handling conflict. This is session 9, moving beyond I'm sorry. Yes, we're going to be talking about forgiveness and apology.
And by the end of this session, you'll have a better understanding of what forgiveness is and is not, but better yet, you'll know how to do it.
Sometimes we're feeling distant because of lingering hurt or guilt over something that was done or said. Maybe one of you said a quick, I'm sorry, but that didn't seem to help. You still feel disconnected. There are still negative feelings. That's what we'll focus on in this session. We'll use words like offender or offended or injured or wrongdoer. And we've all been on both sides of that. We've all offended others and we've all been offended. We've injured others, we've been injured. So since we've all done it on both sides, we're going to go ahead and use that terminology. And an important point about this session, this is not an exhaustive study on the topic of forgiveness. It's a very big, broad topic that we wouldn't be able to treat properly in the amount of time we have. Our goal here today is to cover the basics within the context of your marriage and help you move beyond where you're at now.
What I'd like to have us do is consider the definition of forgiveness right now. So turn in your workbooks. Forgiveness is choosing to let go of the hurt, its anger, and the past. It is choosing to replace angry, self-protective thoughts, words, and actions with loving ones. So you see there that choice is involved. It's not based on feelings. It's not about, oh, I feel forgiving. No, forgiveness is a choice, and feelings may be involved, but forgiveness is a choice of the will.
Now, small offenses can be processed with, I'm sorry and I forgive you. But deeper hurt, the process takes longer, involves more work. So in your workbook, failing to forgive, number 1, harms us. Failing to forgive is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. There's a lot in that. Like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And research confirms the benefits of forgiving to the forgiver. It's correlated with better physical health, better relationships, less depression, higher self-esteem. So the harm is to myself when I fail to forgive another.
Second, failing to forgive harms our marriage. John Gottman covers what he calls the 4 horsemen of the marital apocalypse. And he says that criticism is a real problem in a marriage, and that's pointing out faults in your partner. Second, contempt, seeing your partner as below you or beneath you, seeing yourself as better than your partner. Third is defensiveness. You do it too, that kind of thing. Excuses or denying. And then fourth, the final one is stonewalling. Stonewalling is when there's this stony silence or icy distance. It's shutting down and turning away. And so when these behaviors appear in a relationship, it's very dangerous. But what we have found is when couples regularly forgive each other, these 4 horsemen don't show up. Let's look at how injury and hurt can affect us and our relationships. When we've been offended by our partner, we can feel like a breach, a break in the relationship. If I'm the injured person, I might feel hurt or resentment, those sorts of feelings. If the person has been the offender, I'm going to label Don as the offender.
I'm always the offender.
Right.
Yeah.
He's a good example of the offender. If he's the offender, he might feel,
I might feel guilty, I might feel ashamed, maybe I'd be defensive, I might be pretty critical of myself.
so there are feelings going on in both the injured person and the person who has offended. And we have 2 short exercises related to this. The first exercise is called When You Were Injured. Think back to an event when someone hurt you. And this would not be your partner, somebody else. And so in the event, you were hurt and you had trouble forgiving that person who hurt you. And so the event can be recent or it can be from your childhood. So you will each briefly tell the story of the event and the feelings that you felt. And your partner will listen to you and summarize back with empathy. So we're going to do a demonstration of this first exercise, and I am the person who was injured. Right, okay. So,
And I didn't do it.
exactly. This time you didn't do it. Okay. I was the new kid in school in 5th grade, and in my old school in Philadelphia, everybody brought their lunch. And I didn't really notice that in my new school in Fort Lauderdale, I seemed to be the only one not going through the lunch line. And I just didn't notice it. And I was sitting at lunch at a lunch table with other kids in my class. And then I realized I was the only one eating my lunch. And Charlie, I still remember his name, was sitting next to me, and he noticed me opening up my sandwich, and he said, I know why you bring your lunch. It's because you're poor. And that really hurt. I felt so put on the spot and embarrassed. And
So as Alex, I remember when I had just moved from Philadelphia to Fort Lauderdale, and in Philadelphia we all brought our lunch and ate lunch out of our bags. And in Florida, I didn't really notice it at first, but everybody was buying their lunch and getting a tray from the cafeteria, and I was bringing my lunch in a bag. And we were sitting at a table with a group of kids, and this one boy named Charlie said, I know why you bring your lunch in a bag. It's because you're poor. And it was in front of the other kids at the table, and I was new to the school, and it really hurt. It really embarrassed me, and I was really mad at him for doing that.
yeah, you got it. Now that's a demonstration of a time when I was injured, and that's the first exercise. What we'd like to do right now is go over the instructions for the second exercise and demonstrate that, and then we'll turn you loose and you'll do both exercises together.
The second one is when you injured another. You were the wrongdoer. Think back to a time when you did something wrong that you regretted. And again, not involving your partner. Something wrong that you regretted and you wanted to be forgiven for. It could be something that happened recently. It could be something from your childhood. The pattern is the same. You'll tell your partner the story of what happened, and they will summarize back with empathy, and I'll do a demonstration of being the one who did wrong. This happened when our oldest, DJ, was probably about 2 years old. And I was watching a hockey game. It was the playoffs, and big game, and happy to be sitting there watching that game. And he came up to me, DJ, and wanted to show me a picture and tap me on the arm. And I'm watching the game and wanting to pay attention to it. And you know how it is with kids and pictures at that age especially. They just scribble all over a piece of paper, and you know, parents, we act like it's really beautiful and make a big fuss about it. And so I tried to kind of give him that attention, but I guess I didn't do it well enough, and he saw I was distracted, and so he kept pulling on my arm, wanting to show me this picture. And I'm trying to do a little for him, but really wanting to see the game. And And he kept pulling and kept pulling my arm, and so finally I said, "Wait, can't you see that I'm watching the game?" And I looked over at him, and his shoulders slumped and his eyes filled with tears, and I could see that he was just crushed by that. And at that moment I felt like the worst dad ever. That I'd let that silly game that really doesn't matter at all caused me to do something that was damaging to my son. And I felt miserable about that.
As Don, I'm a big sports fan, and I really get into it. And one day when our oldest was about 2, he was doing something he does a lot. He brought pictures to me and other things he wanted to show me. And so one day I'm watching the playoffs, and it was an important hockey game, and he did what he does often, and he came to me and wanted to show me a picture and tapped me, "Daddy, Daddy, let me show you." And I just thought, this is, do I have to do this every single time I'm watching the game? And so I just tried to put him off a little and just give him some quick attention, and hoping to be able to stay into the game, which is what I was really wanting, what was important to me at the time. And so he pursued it though, and he pursued it, and I got angry, and I just snapped. And I never had my father ever do this to me. Mm-hmm. And I did it to my son. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Just wait. Can't you see I'm watching the game?" And immediately realized that I had just done something that maybe my father had never even done to me. And I felt like the worst father in the world. I felt shame.
That's it.
Mm. So now it's your turn. So you'll do both exercises. Each of you will take a turn telling about a time you were injured, and your partner will listen with empathy, listen and summarize with empathy. And then you'll turn to exercise 2, and each of you will tell about a time you injured another, and your partner will listen and summarize with empathy. And we'll signal at the halfway point, and again at the 1 minute, the music will come up to signal you have just a few moments to finish. And what we'd like you to do is go ahead and turn knee to knee and get yourselves close so you can practice both of these exercises together. We'll give you an ample amount of time to do that. Ready, go.
Get knee to knee with each other and start the exercise.
You're halfway done. This is the final minute, so begin wrapping it up.
Time to return to the group. Don and Alex are getting ready to start up again.
We'd like for you to mark in your workbook, answer the questions about the feelings that you and your partner remembered. Go.
On your own, complete the quick debrief.
Okay, we'd like to hear from some of you about your experience with this exercise. How was that, Tia?
This was actually a very difficult exercise for me because I don't like dredging up the past. I don't like reliving it because I do feel intensely the same emotions all over again, and I would rather not do that. And it was even hard to just admit hurting someone else. Like I was like embarrassed to like tell him what I did, and you kind of want to sweep it under the rug, and it's like, that was before I knew you, so it didn't happen. So it was actually really hard for me to do that, and I still don't really know how I feel about having to do that. I do not prefer doing that at all.
Yeah, and that's common for all of us, Tia. We all have those stories that we would feel embarrassed to tell. Mm-hmm. The one you heard me tell, I'm embarrassed to tell. But I'm reminded that we're growing into the people we will eventually be. But at the same time, we kind of have to accept who we are and where we are, and just do our best.
Thank you for saying that.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for sharing. Now we want you to take a minute and just talk to your partner about how that felt to do that exercise together. 1 minute, go.
Turn and talk to your partner about how this exercise was for you.
Please go to where it says more thoughts on forgiveness. Here's some bullet points. Forgiveness is and forgiveness is not. Forgiveness is a choice. Forgiveness is a process. It often takes time and repetition. Forgiveness is accomplished even if the other person doesn't say I'm sorry. Forgiveness is given, not earned. Forgiveness is given, not earned. I said that twice on purpose. Forgiveness is possible even if the offending person is dead. And forgiveness is not a feeling. They come and go. It's not once and done. It's not a quick healing. Forgiveness is not accepting wrong behavior or omitting consequences of that behavior. Finally, forgiveness is not restored trust.
Turn in your workbook to the question, does forgiveness restore trust? And the answer is no. Only trustworthy behavior over time restores trust. Trust is restored or earned if the offender maintains consistent, trustworthy behavior over time.
Remember, forgiveness is given, not earned. Trust is earned, not given. So it doesn't mean you haven't forgiven that person when you are waiting and watching as their trust is reproven, is rebuilt. It's almost a testing period. And that's not indicating a lack of forgiveness. They're separate items. So we wanted to be sure and make that distinction for you.
In your workbook, the exercise is called Apology and Forgiveness Couple Talk. And the purpose of this is to move beyond kind of a simple I'm sorry and experience empathy for each other in apologizing and forgiving. And what we'd like you to do is choose a topic that one of you wishes to apologize for. It could be small, common issues, and we've got a list there in the workbook. Issues such as something that was forgotten or lost, not being available to your partner when they needed you, being late or inconveniencing them in some way. So we would like you to take a minute and agree on something one of you would like to apologize for.
Turn and talk to your partner.
So we'll walk through a demonstration of this right now, and I'm going to be the apologizer, so I am the expressor and I'll have the expression stick. I want to ask forgiveness because you're important to me, and I want to be supportive to you in all times or in all phases of our marriage.
So as Alex, I want to ask forgiveness about something because you're important, and you're important to me in all ways, all parts of our marriage.
So I want to ask forgiveness for not being there as much as I think I should have been when your father was gravely ill those last weeks and passed away.
As Alex, I want to ask forgiveness for not being available or around as much when your dad was dying.
And so I could imagine that when you were having to go to the hospital there a lot, and I wasn't able to go as often with you, I imagine that perhaps you felt more alone in that, and maybe had some disappointment that I wasn't kind of sharing that and more involved.
So as Alex, when I think about that, I'm guessing that you were probably feeling alone during that time, going to see your dad all the time in the hospital and carrying that burden, and maybe you felt disappointed in me that I wasn't able to be there.
And I imagine that you probably wished I was more involved, because we had been involved with him before, and I know you appreciated that when I was, and you would say it. And so as I was thinking about that, I thought, wow, you know, I missed something there in helping you, and I wished I had been more supportive, and I imagine you had wished I was too.
So as Alex, I wish I could have done more, and I wish that I had done more. I was close to your dad, and I can imagine that having to do that alone and not having me there, you probably wished that I was there to help carry some of that weight, and I wished that I was there too.
And I'm sorry, and I'm asking for forgiveness from you.
And as Alex, I'm sorry and asking you to forgive me.
Now, we're going to stop the demonstration there, but you will continue with the prompts. And there is a place for you to switch roles, and there will be a time for the person who's been injured to express what was going on inside of them, what they felt about it. And you will then, if you were the one who was apologizing, listen and summarize back with empathy. So in your workbook, we have the note to the apologizer. And this helps explain. There may be reasons why or other factors that contributed to your behavior, and you have a right to explain yourself, but this particular time may not be the time. It's about having injured your partner and wanting to really, really show that heart to be asking for forgiveness. So we want you to know that there is a time and a place. It may be later on. Maybe your partner right now can't hear that. And after a while, when their feelings kind of settle down, they're going to be able to say, you know, I want to hear more about that. So there is a time and a place, but during this first practicing of this exercise, it may not come up. And I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of where it fits.
Now it's your turn. I want you to turn in your chairs, knee to knee. We're going to give you a signal when we're halfway through. We'll let you know when there's a minute left. The music will come up when it's time to return to the group. So it's time for you to tell your apology to your partner. Ready, go.
Turn your chairs so you're knee to knee with your partner and begin the exercise.
halfway there. Start wrapping it up. There's 1 minute remaining.
Time to return to the group. We're getting ready to start up again.
We want to tell you that we acknowledge this may have been the most difficult couple talk that you've had in here. And so you've done some really hard work, and we appreciate your efforts, and I'm sure that your partner does, and you probably do too. So go ahead and mark in your workbook your responses to the exercise, and we'll give you a minute to do that.
Look at your workbook and mark the debrief on your own.
Okay, now we'd like to hear from you. We know that was a hard exercise. You're talking about apologizing or forgiveness. We'd like to hear how that went for you, what it felt like, what was hard. Callie.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a difficult time when Bobo was apologizing to me, and I was trying to summarize with empathy. As he was going through, I kind of wanted to chime in and tell him how it was actually making me feel, but instead I just had to keep repeating, summarizing what he was saying. And since I couldn't say anything, eventually he finally got to how it really made me feel, and it felt so much better that it was coming from him, that he really understood and he got to the point.
Yeah.
Instead of me telling him, it made me feel a certain way. And then I wanted to forgive him more.
Yeah, that's an important thing that you're mentioning. When you're the one apologizing, you're trying to imagine what your partner might have felt, but your partner's the expert on how they really felt. But getting into practice of stepping into your partner's shoes and imagining what might have happened is really important. And it sounds like it worked out to the point where as he sat in your shoes and he imagined more and more, it became what was more true for you. So that's a beautiful way you demonstrated that process. That's like the falling leaf.
And let me add that if he finishes and he still hasn't hit, then when it's your turn to speak, then you clarify that. You name the things that he said that were correct, and then say, and there was more. I also felt such and such, and he'll listen with empathy for you. So you just have to be patient a little bit, maybe, if he didn't get to it. Bobo?
It was good because she's really expressive. And so as I was apologizing, I also felt like I wasn't quite getting to it, and so, but her face also told me that's not it. And so I knew that I wanted to keep digging deeper, but the more I talked about it, and the more her face lined up.
You knew.
I knew, but also just I could feel that I wasn't getting to the heart of the issue. And I really wanted to do that because I did feel really sorry, and I did want her to know that.
But good for you. You stayed with it and you were able to. Yeah, and it pleased her and helped her that you came to it on your own without her telling you. Yeah. Jarrell.
Yeah, it was really difficult for me personally. It's always hard to bring up old emotions and to revisit things that are painful in the past. But it was also difficult to apologize for something without allotting for because or to like give excuses for it. Because it's really easy for me to say, I'm sorry that this happened, but I was under a lot of stress, or you were pushing me to the edge of this. So it's like just placing the blame. So to take that out of the equation, the apology means a lot more, but it's more difficult to do, but it's more rewarding at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Your role in this exercise and the way that it's structured is you're going to take responsibility for your contributions, and you're going to take care of apologizing and connecting with their experience and letting them know you're sorry about that. Then they have a turn to respond, and then after that's done, you have the right to go back another time and say, I'd like to tell you a few things that were going on inside of me and some things that happened, and that's what Alex talked about earlier. If you say those things right up front, then it's the yes, but, and you dilute the value of the apology. So we ask you to set that aside. We want you to be able to share it. We're not trying to squelch you, but first take care of what you did and your responsibility for that.
You might not have been finished with this couple talk, but we need to move on. So what can we do right now when there might be some lingering negative feelings? What I'd like us to do is take a couple of minutes and do the exercise called reconnecting statements. That's also in the appendix because it's very useful to kind of reconnect, rejoin together after some negative discussion has happened. So what you'll do is you'll take turns expressing just a couple of the prompts that are listed. And there's no listening with empathy to this. So it's just a short, quick way of reaffirming your commitment to your partner, appreciating their efforts at doing the exercise, maybe reaffirming that you care, acknowledging the difficulty of the couple talk. You don't have to turn knee to knee. Just pick a couple of the prompts and tell them to each other, which will help close out this couple talk. Go.
Go ahead and talk to your partner.
Okay, we need to bring you back to the group.
Turn in your workbook to Cracking the Code to Handling Conflict, Moving Beyond I'm Sorry. And we want to recap some important principles from this session. Number one is unforgiveness damages us and our marriage. Then in Cracking the Code in Everyday Life, we mentioned, the kind of apology where it's I'm sorry, but. So how do you change that in everyday life? Well, we'd like you to consider a deeper apology that includes empathy, and it can be done quickly. So it's maybe as quick as I'm sorry, but it's a whole different kind of thing. So what you do is, number one, you name what you did. I lost the keys again. Then you empathize with what might have been the consequences to your partner. Did it frustrate them? Did it cause them inconvenience? Did it embarrass them? And you name it. I lost the keys again, and I bet that really frustrated you because you wanted to be on time, right? And then the final thing is say out loud, I'm sorry. And there's no but that comes after that, right? So it's built with I lost the keys. I bet that really frustrated you because you wanted to be on time, and I want you to know I'm sorry. Do you see how different that is? That's how you crack the code in everyday life when it comes to apologizing.
Now we'd like to ask you to do a partner appreciation with each other. And we'll ask you now to turn your chairs so that you're facing each other knee to knee and do each of you a partner appreciation. Ready, go.
Turn knee to knee with your partner and start the exercise.
Time's up. Excellent job. Let's turn back toward Don and Alex.
Okay, got to stop you. As we've said before, it's really fun for us to look at you guys giving appreciations to each other, seeing couples close together, a lot of times holding hands, sometimes there's a kiss. It's beautiful. And we encourage you to do this all the time. It costs you nothing and creates such a benefit for your relationship.
We're finished with this session of cracking the code to handling conflict, moving beyond I'm sorry.
And next time is our final session, where you'll learn how to make couple talk the new normal.